everyone. Welcome to the Weird World Podcast. I'm Carrie.
I'm Dean.
Hi, Dean. This week for you, we have a little weird bit.
Yes, we do. It's a kind of a weird bit, I suppose you could say, but it definitely fits within our wheelhouse. It's also ripped from almost today's headlines.
And I know nothing about it.
No, you don't. So,
I mean, I probably do if it's ripped from the headlines.
well, you might have. I don't know if you saw this story. In fact, I relied more or less on two major articles. One from Time Magazine, published, I believe, April 7th, 2025.
Okay.
Another one from Business Insider. There was some other. That one was published on April 8th. But
Well, you know me. I'm a big Business Insider reader.
Time Magazine is not a very good publication anymore. But
I don't read either.
It seems like this used to be, of course, a massive, incredibly important,
It was major.
It was huge, but
My parents had a subscription back in the day.
there's none, I don't know if there's any magazine that fits that mold anymore, really, at all. They all just do a lot of, decent news stories in amongst a bunch of clickbait and paid for kind of promotional articles that are advertised and supposed articles.
The Atlantic is very good.
Atlantic's very, very good. Yeah, they don't do that kind of thing.
But
But
it's
Time,
not newsy, yeah.
no. So what this story was that's been kind of floating around the media sphere lately is an animal that you may have heard of. What?
I don't know where I thought this was going, but I didn't think it was going to be animal related.
Absolutely animal related. Are you a fan, Carrie, of the show Game of Thrones?
Oh, you know it, Dean.
I know full well that you're not.
Oh, I thought I was supposed to be.
But there is a creature on Game of Thrones that it does CGI. It's called the dire wolf.
Oh.
And the reason it's CGI is because dire wolves have been extinct for 10,000 years. They were a very large wolf, but they were a little bit bigger than a gray wolf is these days, but they had very strong shoulders, very strong jaws, big fat faces because they had to hold down and capture very large prey and rip them up. Now they hunted mammoths and woolly bison and huge megafauna like that.
Wow.
And so they weren't massively bigger. They hunted in packs. They weren't don't think they're twice the size of wolves. They're just a little bit bigger than a gray wolf, but they were very powerful, very strong. And they also are no longer extinct if you believe the folks at Colossus Biosciences, because they say they have brought back and de-extincted the dire wolf.
Well,
just hold your be patient. Let's hear them out, Carrie. Hear them out, please.
Okay.
Last year, they gave birth through a type of cloning, different than the type of cloning that you might be familiar with. Dolly, the sheep, the famous cloned sheep. Well, that process of cloning Dolly, I'll explain that in just a minute, has now given rise. We've cloned lots and lots of different animals, not just Dolly. The way they're doing it, though, is slightly different. And they kind of re-engineered the DNA of dire wolves, and they got two samples. One's like 13,000 years old, another one 72,000 years old from America. And they were able to extract DNA. One was a skull, and one was,
okay.
I think, I don't know what the other one was, but they're able to get DNA out of it, and they're essentially able to snip and genetically re-engineer the DNA.
Interesting.
And implant it into the ovum of a gray wolf and put it into a surrogate parent. In this case, it was large mixed hound dogs.
Okay.
And they were successful in giving birth to not one, not two, but three dire wolves. The first ones were named Romulus and Remus for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And when the reporter for Time Magazine went to visit them, they were about 6 months old and said they were snowy white. And what was so unusual about them is at 6 months, they were nearly 4 feet long and they already weighed 80 pounds. They're expected to grow to about 6 feet.
Wow.
From, I guess, tip to snout. No, that must be height, because I don't know, and be about 150 pounds. I don't know how tall they would be, but they exhibit a very wolf-like behavior. They aren't cuddly. They don't, humans aren't sort of welcome. Even one of the persons that had been raising them since they were babies essentially can't really get close to them, and they kind of retreat and they
Yeah.
hide when humans come too close to them. They really keep their distance.
I have a problem with this.
Why?
I mean, ethically.
A lot of people have a problem with that. We'll get to that. We'll get to
Okay.
I was going to end it on some of the criticisms of this, and even if they really are direwolves.
Right. Well, they're not.
I-
They're something.
Yes. Well, I mean, Colossal
They're a hybrid.
Biosciences says these are direwolves, that they've genetically engineered them to be just like the direwolf DNA. They rewrote their genetic code. So a little bit about Colosso. Colosso is a biosciences firm that's founded just in 2021. It's already grown to like a $10 billion company. I mean, they mostly do things with bioengineering and things like that.
Where are they headquartered?
I don't know. That's a great question, because the Remus live on a 2,000-acre fenced-in lot, I guess, parcel of land that they won't tell you where it is for obvious reasons. They don't want it to be,
Sure,
come around, mess around, steal them maybe. But they are looking to de-extinct other animals at Colosso.
but hang on, is this U.S.?
Yes, it's the U.S.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They want to de-extinct a woolly mammoth, and they're already in the process of doing that.
Hasn't that been in the works for a while, though?
It has, with various places.
Okay.
But they think they've kind of cracked the code of how to do this more easily,
Right.
and more successfully. It's cloning is still really bad.
Yeah.
30 years on now, it fails more often than it's successful. It kills the surrogate parent very often. There's problematic pregnancies and births all the time.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, these two, all the three, the Romulus and Remus and their sister Kalishi. Hold on.
Of course.
I
I think that's from Game of Thrones.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. As you can see, neither. How do you know that? Because neither one of us watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you hear stuff.
You do? Okay. Well, they also want to de-extinct the dodo and the thylacine, which I'm very much on board with,
Yes.
as you might guess. That the thylacine, of course, actually has a formaldehyde preserved pup, a fetus.
Yeah.
And the dodo,
thylacine is recent enough that
yes.
Ethically, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you reintroduce a direwolf?
That would be very difficult.
Into the where and why?
I mean, because wolves travel huge distances.
Yeah.
They usually have packs of 8, 10, 15 wolves. They can go have ranges that are many, many miles, much, much larger than that 2,000-acre site that they're on.
And when did they go extinct?
10,000 years ago, the end of the Ice Age.
Yeah. So
they were Ice Age creatures. They were geared for the megafauna in the Ice Age, and when all of those big megafauna herbivores went extinct, they went extinct shortly.
Did they not see Jurassic Park?
We're going to talk about Jurassic Park in a minute. So,
okay.
But apparently, yes. But I think they did not get the message.
Clearly,
that's what I feel like. They have also, in the process of trying to de-extinct the woolly mammoth, they copied a mammoth DNA into a mouse to create a woolly mouse. And it was successful. It has a long golden coat, and it has accelerated fat metabolism, just like the woolly mammoth did. And so this little creature right now existing on their premises, I guess, called a woolly mouse. And it's part of figuring out how they can do that. And what they do is they take an Asian elephant, that's the closest living relative to the woolly mammoth, and they would essentially use that as the ovum of an Asian elephant, and again extract the DNA and put it into that denaturized or something like that ovum.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're plugging in the male part into the female ovum, and voila, you have a fertilized egg for that creature. So, the idea,
but the egg has the DNA of
an Asian elephant.
Yes,
it does.
Okay. So it is still going to be a hybrid.
It's not. It kind of has to be. That's why you want to go with it. That's why they did it to a gray wolf.
Yeah.
Was used along with the manipulated DNA of these two direwolf samples in this case.
I mean, I understand that you can get fairly close, but it's not. It's not exact.
Beth Shapiro, she's Colossal's chief science officer. She says basically what they're trying to do is learn how to protect currently almost extinct animals. One of the things they're doing is the red wolf, which they're very much involved in a program to protect the red wolf from extinction. It's a type of wolf. It's a relative. The gray wolf is not a gray wolf. Is lives mostly in Texas now. There aren't that many left. They used to roam all over North America and into Mexico, and I believe even further down into Central America. And there's not that many left. And they're using some of this, what they're doing, to help them figure out how to potentially make red wolves more robust. And you can do the same with elephants, with what they learn from the woolly mammoth as well, and things like that. She says that if we want a future that is both bionumerous and filled with people, we should be giving ourselves the opportunity to see what our big brains can do to reverse some of the bad things that we've done to the world already. End quote.
Yeah. DNA manipulation
Yeah.
and cloning is
Well,
not the way to do it. How
you gotta
about we
sell
just
it.
conserve
So, like I said,
habitats and
yes, for sure. There's what they're doing though is really interesting. So they created the direwolf by just 20 edits in 14 genes of the common gray wolf. And again, they learned it from extracting the direwolf DNA. They essentially, did the genome of a direwolf DNA, and then they went into a gray wolf DNA, and they made those edits to those ribbons, and essentially got a at least a close approximation as is possible, at least right now,
Do
for
you
direwolf.
know, did they really fully map a true direwolf
They did.
genome from a skull?
From skull and another sample. I don't know if it's like one of those, like woolly mammoths we have frozen in the
exactly.
taiga. So I don't know if it was
that's
what
what
the second sample was.
Yeah, can you really get it from a full DNA thing from
Let me see if I can, hold on.
a skull? I don't know the science. Maybe you can, but
The samples I got, actually, one was a skull from American Falls, Idaho. They used the ear bone. I guess that had DNA. I don't know. And the other was extracted from the tooth of a 13,000-year-old direwolf tooth found in Ohio.
Huh.
So, yeah.
I don't know the science of it. I'm just curious if they really did get the full DNA thing, or if they had to, make some,
I mean,
extrapolations.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well,
anything about DNA.
they look, Ramos and Remus, the Times reported wasn't able to see Khaleesi. Khaleesi was younger. She's only 2 months old, so she was too young. They didn't want to present her and show them. He didn't interact with them, but was able to see them in a small enclosure. And they do. They have white coat like the direwolf they think had. They're bigger than a gray wolf would be at that same age. And they have much more powerful shoulders, as I mentioned. They have a wider head. You see the picture. We'll show you pictures. They almost they puffed out cheeks because they had extremely powerful jaw muscles. And they do this howling and whining, I think all wolves do that, but they do, act like wild wolves, not like dogs. Again, even though they've been raised by people from day one. Yeah,
that's a little bit scary.
It is a little bit. So the regular way you do this cloning,
you mean the regular cloning method?
The Dolly way, the way that's been around for a few decades now, is you snip some tissue from the donor animal, and then you isolate a single cell. In the nucleus of that cell, you have all the DNA with that animal, the full genome of that animal, and you extract that and you insert it into an ovum whose own nucleus has been removed. That's why it's been denuclearized or something like that.
Okay.
And then that essentially gives you a fertilized ovum.
How is it fertilized though?
But because I guess it can develop into an embryo, and then that embryo is implanted into a surrogate mother, the womb of a surrogate mother.
We missed a step.
I feel like we did, but I don't know what that step is. I mean, it's fertilization, isn't it?
Yeah, you just have an egg.
I don't know what they do it.
You need the DNA of two things.
Well, you do from the ovum.
No, you said they took the ovum's nucleus out.
Yeah.
And put the new one in.
Uh-huh.
So that's just like one egg.
Yeah.
But now it's got the DNA.
I think it develops into an embryo because it's an egg. It's just you're injecting this new animal DNA into it. At least, hey, that's what it says here in Time Magazine. I'm just going to go back to that. So, I mean, but that's the normal. I mean,
obviously
way.
They did because
they've been doing it for 30 years. Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about, they didn't do that way. That's the normal way. That's the way Dolly was born in 1996. And since then, there have been pigs, cats, deer, horses, mice, goats, wolves as well, and over 1,500 times dogs have been cloned using that kind of
Oh,
technology.
yuck. By weirdos that can't stand the fact that their pet died, so they have them cloned.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just,
Rich weirdos. Colosso is doing something a little different.
it's an abuse of science, in my opinion.
Potentially. Colossal isolated cells, not from a tissue sample, like they did a sheep
Yeah.
or a dog or something like that,
Uh-huh.
but from the blood of the creature. So and in this case, a wolf, they took kind of like the cells from the lining of blood vessels, and then they took that DNA and they rewrote those 14 key genes in the cell's nucleus to match those of the direwolf, again, because they had solved the direwolf genome.
Sure.
So they didn't have any ancient direwolf DNA that was spliced into that gray wolf genome like you do the Dolly
Yeah.
method. They don't do that. They essentially just edit it, and
Because they can't.
and then they
probably.
transfer it into a denucleated ovum. So it's similar, but not the same. They're not using
Okay.
DNA cell,
Sure.
like the nucleus. They're using anything, in this
Yeah.
case, blood.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? Because
Yes.
tomorrow I will not be able to repeat that.
The only difference is where the DNA comes from.
Yes, that's true.
But
But it's considered much less invasive, and it's considered and like I said, they're bad unless they're hiding their mistakes with direwolves. They're 3 for 3,
yeah.
so that's not bad. And again, they used hound mixes on October 1st, 2024. Romulus and Remus were born, and Khaleesi was born January 30th, 2025. All were birthed by cesarean section, because one of the things that is bad, because they tend to be
Yeah.
bigger. These cloned fetuses tend to be larger.
I was going to ask if the surrogate mom dog survived.
They did. They all did. They all
Okay.
did. They were all born successfully by cesarean, but
Okay.
again, going back to the Dolly style,
Yeah.
the parent dies quite often.
Yeah.
And it's very, very painful, and there's a lot of suffering.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, that's not good at all. And that's what they do all the time when they do
Yeah.
these 1,500 dogs that they've cloned so far. But so in their 2,000-acre ecological preserve that Romulus and Remus live in, I don't know if Khaleesi lives with them or not, but they are fed beef and horse and deer meat, as well as things like liver and offal, and some puppy chow, because they still need some nutrients they aren't necessarily getting from that. And they
Yeah.
haven't hunted anything, because so far nothing has got in the fence. But the scientists are saying, like, if I was a deer, I would not sneak through that fence, because these 2 6-month-old 80-pound direwolves could maybe take it down. And certainly when
Yeah.
they're growing up, they would be very, very, dangerous. They're showing that behavior where they're like, when they're very young, they would stalk leaves and go after them and jump after them, things like that.
Yeah.
And again, the direwolves were, they think anyway, very much megafauna type hunters. That gray wolves will eat mice and voles and things like that, in addition to deer and large prey as well. They're much more generalist. They think the direwolf was much more of a specialist, because they coexisted
And where do they live?
all over North America, all the way down to Venezuela, through Central America.
So what the F is their plan?
That's kind of a problem that a lot of people have brought up. So, yeah.
And are they going to mate Romulus and Remus with Khaleesi?
Oh, I hope not. I feel like they're siblings, even if they aren't genetically siblings. No, I don't know what the plan is. They haven't
Well, they
said
have to
that.
be genetically siblings.
If they were taken from the 2 same samples, I guess. I mean, I don't know how that works, or if that is considered a sibling. Is it? I don't know.
Yeah. I would think so.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people do think this is 2 things. 1, this may not be ethical, and 2, these aren't really direwolves.
This 100% is not ethical.
Yeah.
And they are not 100% direwolves, obviously.
That's what a lot of people think. So a lot of folks in the biosciences and that field think, no, this really isn't a direwolf. One such scientist, he works for the Francis Crick Institute. His name is Pontius Skoglund, which is
Oh my God.
a spectacular name.
Where did his parents
He's
come
a
from?
geneticist. He said, I wouldn't call this the world's first de-extinction. I'm not necessarily against the initiative, but these are not direwolves. He says, he'd say later that they're kind of like, let's call them like inspired from the direwolves. Because for one thing, scientists don't, I guess they don't have the complete for sure genome of
Right.
the dire wolf. And because apparently they did have some gaps when they extracted their DNA, when
Yeah.
Colossal did that. So
Mhm.
there are some gaps, and they just sort of they
Okay.
interpolated those gaps to
Which
think,
is
okay, it's just probably this. We
yeah.
don't know, though. We don't know exactly what a direwolf looked like, of course.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
have bones. We have fossilized bones. We don't have, like, again, with woolly mammoths, we actually have tissue of them. We don't have that of direwolves.
Yeah.
So some people think, yeah, they can't be direwolves because we don't know exactly what direwolves were,
Yeah.
and they did have to guess on some gaps. And one Skoglund asked, "Would a chimpanzee with 20 gene edits be called human?" So you could do that
Yeah.
theoretically, and would you say that's a human being? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, yeah. I suspect at some point, if this ever stays in the news,
Yeah.
we find out it's just a genetically manipulated gray wolf or something.
Well, I mean, they did. I believe them that they did extract the DNA and write most of the genome of a direwolf DNA, and they did make edits that made these Romulus and Remus and Khaleesi much more direwolf-like than a gray wolf would be. So I think it is. Vincent Lynch, another genomics person, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a word. He said, "Quote: It's not a direwolf; it's a cloned gray wolf that they transgenetically modified to make
Oh.
it look like what we think direwolves
Okay.
looked like.
That's what I just said.
We don't even really know what they looked like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. But there are other people who think no, these are direwolves for all intents and purposes.
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
it's their best guess.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, the Business Insider article quoted several people who say, no, these aren't direwolves, who are not affiliated with the Colossal. The Time article, purely was mouthing what Colosso was arguing and really didn't approach the idea at all. The counter argument whatsoever. It was I don't know, it's a puff piece, but it was a very friendly article.
Is Time pretty much a pay for your
I don't know. I doubt they paid for
article.
it, but they're not hard hitting,
Yeah.
Journalism by any stretch anymore. They never were great magazines, but they certainly aren't what they used to be. And also, Colossal Biosciences has not published their work in any peer-reviewed journal. They say they have a preparing an article, but they haven't done it yet. So a lot of the scientists are saying, until we can do that and see the details, it's hard to say. But for what we see right now, we don't think these are dire wolves. Colossal says these are as close as we're ever going to get to dire wolves, and they're effectively dire wolves.
Are there any regulations on this kind of?
It doesn't seem
stuff?
like it, because, like I say, people just for vanity, they have their dog clone, which again is not your dog.
Yeah.
It's something that very much looks like your dog, but it's not your dog.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like there's much, does it?
I mean, maybe it depends on what state they're in.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, we can. I'll bet you somebody could figure out where they are. They're not.
Oh, I'm sure. I just don't know.
I mean, they're
where
in
they
a
are.
state that. I mean, because most places these animals would have to be permitted, and as we know from that zoo massacre episode we did,
They're in Texas. They're based in Austin,
okay.
Texas. I kind of, when they said it's a 2,000 acre preserve with the fence around it, I kind of assumed Texas.
Okay.
And also they're very active with red wolves, and the last red wolves are in Texas. So
okay.
they're based in Texas. I think he's the CEO, quoted, he said, quote, "I think of that famous Teddy Roosevelt quote. In the moment of any choice, the first thing to do is the right thing. The next thing to do is the wrong thing. The worst thing to do is nothing at all," which is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard human beings say. It's obviously, because you know how we know that's not true? A little documentary called Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Ask that same question, or tell that to all the people who died from those dinosaurs in that horrific Costa Rican horror show called Jurassic Park, which I understand was a true story. But no, that's just a dumb statement.
Yeah, no. The second, the first thing you do, or what the best thing
basically
to do
he's saying
is
that the best thing to do is the right thing. The second best thing is the
nothing.
wrong. Yeah, for sure it's nothing. The worst thing to do
is the wrong thing.
That's pretty much almost never true.
I mean,
I don't know if Teddy Roosevelt really
in
said
the
that or not.
context of don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. That's what they're
There's
basically
nothing
saying.
wrong with
Yeah.
making a mistake. that's not the
Yeah.
wrong
No,
thing.
I know.
That's
Yes.
trying something and it not working the way
That's
you
great.
wanted it
I think
to.
that's try something, but
Yes.
if you do something incredibly stupid and dangerous, that was the
Yes.
wrong thing, and it's not better than nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing is a lot better than doing something terrible.
Yes.
So no, sorry about that, guy. You're just alibi. I like it. I think we should see more of this. I do think there are some ethical questions, especially in terms of what is the end game here. Do you plan on reintroducing them? How's that going to work? Like a woolly mammoth, how do you do that? Where do you do that?
Exactly.
Siberia, I
Yeah.
suppose. Then you better be talking to Russia because they're not going to do it here. Canada, I don't know. And in a few years, those are going to be like semi-tropical
Yeah.
places anyway. Maybe not a few years, but they'll be much, much warmer.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, woolly mammoths aren't going to, go on a rampage and kill. Well, I guess they might. Elephants kill a
did
lot
you
of
see
people.
Jurassic Park? Well, some people brought up that, those famous things like the cane toad that was introduced to, was Australia and
Yeah.
it just ran rampant.
I know.
Or
That's
Asian carps are
yeah.
taking over the Great Lakes
Yes.
because some dipshits put them in there as just sort of game
Yeah.
fish or something like that. And
Yeah.
now they're just ruining the
Well,
Great Lakes. So
Which is why Professor Hammond had a good idea. He was going to keep it all in a preserve
wow.
in one area.
You just pulled out
He
the
was-
name of the
Yeah.
character in Jurassic Park.
Who's
could
the
not have-
actor? I love that guy.
the guy with white hair. Attenborough?
Yes.
Yes.
Sir Richard.
Sir Richard Attenborough, of course.
Yeah. I mean,
Carrie's a sucker for an accent. You like Jean-Luc
he
Picard.
was, who doesn't like Richard Attenborough,
I
Dean?
suppose.
But
It's,
he was dumb because these were
yeah,
dinosaurs and T-Rex, and some of them could fly. But
damn right.
so,
Yeah.
but
That
at
again,
least
that true story did not work out
Yes.
well. And a lot of people suffered.
but at least he wasn't trying to introduce them to the wild and let them loose.
That's true. But
He
I
had an
feel like they could've.
island.
He did have an island.
I'm pretty sure Colossal doesn't have a direwolf island. that
Nah,
they're
but they got
gonna
a big ass state, so I don't know if there's enough. But still,
Yeah.
but for wolves, for a pack of dire wolves, are you going to reintroduce a pack of dire wolves into, say, Texas?
And
Good
they
luck.
better have some major mother effing security systems in place,
Oh,
right?
I'm sure they maybe do. I hope it's not electrified because that could hurt Romulus and Remus.
Here's the thing. That's not their business. So I don't trust that they do. So I'm glad they're not in our neck of the woods.
I'm still going to support it if it gets me to see a thylacine alive.
You
While
don't
I'm
need
still
them.
alive, I want a thylacine. I
Yeah,
want to have
let real scientists do it. I don't trust
Can I
these
have a
guys.
pet?
Huh?
Can we get a thylacine?
No.
Please. I'm gonna continue to bug you until you say yes. We can get a thylacine. I'll feed it.
Okay.
I'll
Yes.
walk it.
Yes, we can.
Oh, that's so fantastic. That is great. You heard it here, people.
I call his bluff on a regular basis because
damn
we
you.
know A,
God
he's not going to
damn
do
you.
anything to actually secure it because B, they don't exist.
Well, if they do, you're on record as allowing me to get a thylacine. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Binding contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you. And unless you can say, Carrie, go do this, and I actually do it, it's not going to happen.
Get a thylacine. Okay, so that's the story of the return of the direwolf ?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you asking me?
Yeah. What do you think?
No.
I lean toward it's probably not a direwolf either, but I think it's really close, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to keep doing that. But we do have to be conscious of, is there an end game for this and what's going to happen ultimately?
I do wonder what science says about that. If it didn't come from the true DNA of that animal, can through genetic manipulation
Yeah.
it be?
Yeah, can you?
And
if
I don't
you
even know
have-
that they've even asked themselves this question.
What if you do have a whole and complete genome? Can you then manipulate a gray wolf genome to be precisely exactly with no interpolation, with no guesses? Could you do enough SNPs and genetic engineering, re-engineering to make it exactly like that direwolf DNA?
Yeah.
Would that then be a direwolf? I think it would.
Yeah.
So I think my guess is they're probably very, very close. Romulus and Remus are very, very close to actual
Yeah.
direwolves.
I do, though, want to find out the answer to how this fertilization thing takes place.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the whole wonky science of it. I'm just a poor country podcaster. So that's the direwolf. We hope you enjoyed this quasi weird bit, and we'll see you again in a week or so.
Yep.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
I get a thylacine.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
I get a thylacine.
If you have thylacine DNA, don't send it to D.
Ah.